My straight dance partner forgot the choreography when I looked into his eyes. Gay love story. Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you enjoy emotional gay love stories with romance, powerful twists, and unforgettable endings, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. And before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We love seeing viewers from all over the world. Thank you for being here. Now let's dive into today's story. If you think winning is only about perfect steps, you have never watched two people trying not to feel anything. Noah Bennett repeated those words silently as he tightened the laces on his worn dance shoes and stared across the polished hardwood floor of the university studio. The mirrors reflected bright ceiling lights, rows of practice bars, and students stretching with quiet confidence. Yet all he could hear was the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat. Dance had always been the one place where the world made sense. Every count had a purpose. Every movement carried a story. Every mistake could become beautiful if someone was willing to keep moving. Noah had believed that since he was 10 years old, when his grandmother first guided him across the creaking floor of a tiny community center outside Portland. She used to tell him that people always lied with words before they ever lied with their feet. Since then, he had trusted movement more than conversation. Across the room, Liam Parker was already warming up. He balanced effortlessly, rolled his shoulders once, and finished a flawless spin without appearing to think about it. The captain of the university dance team looked exactly like the posters hanging outside the recreation center promised. Confident, athletic, focused. His blonde hair caught the morning sunlight pouring through the tall windows while the sleeves of his gray training shirt were pushed casually above his forearms. Every student seemed to notice when he entered a room, and most pretended they were not looking. Liam noticed almost everyone, but he rarely let anyone notice him in return. Noah had admired his technique from a distance for nearly a year. Though the feeling stopped there, admiration was safe. Expectations were dangerous. Coach Ramirez clapped once, and the chatter disappeared instantly. Everyone gathered near the center of the studio while a large tournament bracket appeared on the projector behind him. The annual National Collegiate Dance Showcase was only 6 weeks away, and every pair chosen today would represent the university on one of the biggest stages in the country. Noah folded his arms, expecting to be partnered with one of the quieter contemporary dancers. Liam looked equally certain that he would dance beside his longtime teammate, Tyler. Coach Ramirez smiled in the suspicious way that always meant trouble. This season, he announced, I am pairing dancers by potential instead of comfort. Groans rippled across the room. Noah felt his stomach tighten. Liam sighed under his breath. Coach Ramirez began reading names one pair at a time. Cheers followed familiar partnerships until he paused dramatically before the final announcement. Liam Parker and Noah Bennett. Silence landed so suddenly it almost echoed. Noah blinked once, convinced he had misheard. Liam turned at exactly the same moment, his expression frozen somewhere between confusion and disbelief. Several teammates exchanged wide-eyed glances before whispers spread through the studio like a wave. Tyler actually laughed. Coach, you are serious? Liam finally asked, keeping his voice respectful despite the obvious surprise. Completely serious, Coach Ramirez replied. Your strengths are different. That is exactly why this partnership matters. Liam rubbed the back of his neck and looked toward Noah for the first time that morning. Their eyes met only briefly before Liam looked away again, almost too quickly to notice. Noah forced a polite smile and stepped forward anyway. Looks like we are partners, he said quietly. Liam hesitated for half a second before shaking his hand. His grip was firm, professional, and careful. Looks that way, he answered. No fireworks exploded. No magical music filled the room. There was only an awkward handshake. A room full of curious faces, and two dancers wondering whether 6 weeks would feel like 6 days or 6 years. Coach Ramirez handed them their routine. It was contemporary ballroom, a style that demanded complete trust, precise timing, and constant eye contact. Liam glanced through the pages once and exhaled slowly. This is going to be harder than I expected. Noah smiled with surprising calm. That probably means it is worth doing. Liam studied him for a moment, unable to decide whether Noah was quietly confident or simply impossible to read. Neither of them realized that a single decision made inside that sunlit studio had already changed the direction of both their lives before the first note of music had even begun. Noah barely slept after the partner assignments. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the brief moment when Liam had looked at him across the studio before quickly looking away again. It was not dramatic. It was not romantic. It was simply confusing. By the time the morning sun filtered through the apartment window, Noah had already packed his dance shoes, a water bottle, and the notebook where he liked to write reminders about posture, rhythm, and musical interpretation. The practice schedule Coach Ramirez had posted left very little room for anything besides classes and rehearsal. 6 weeks sounded generous until Noah counted the hours. Liam was already inside Studio B when Noah arrived. The larger practice room was empty except for the two of them. A portable speaker rested beside the mirrored wall, while sunlight stretched across the polished floor in long golden stripes. Liam glanced at his watch before offering a short nod. "You are early." Noah smiled lightly. "I like having a few quiet minutes before the music starts." Liam shrugged. "I like finishing on time." Noah laughed softly. "That also sounds like you." The first song began, and the difference between them became obvious almost immediately. Liam danced with clean precision. Every step landed exactly where it belonged. Every turn stopped on the correct count. Noah moved differently. His technique was equally strong, but his body followed the melody instead of chasing it. Coach Ramirez watched in silence for several minutes before finally stopping the music. "Again," he said. They repeated the opening sequence. Again. Another attempt. Again. Liam exhaled through his nose. "The timing is correct." Coach Ramirez folded his arms. "The timing is perfect. The connection is missing." Liam frowned slightly. "We have practiced together for less than an hour." "Exactly," Coach Ramirez answered. "Right now I am watching two excellent dancers performing beside each other. I am not watching partners." Noah quietly nodded because he already understood what the coach meant. Liam looked unconvinced. They restarted from the beginning. Noah reached for Liam's hand during the first transition exactly as the choreography required. Liam accepted the hold naturally, but his shoulders stayed tense. Every lift, every pivot, every synchronized step looked technically impressive while somehow feeling emotionally distant. Even the mirrors seemed to reflect two separate performances happening at the same time. During the lunch break, Liam sat alone outside the recreation center, eating a turkey sandwich while reviewing competition videos on his tablet. Noah stepped outside carrying 2 iced coffees. "I guessed black coffee," Noah said, offering 1 cup. Liam looked surprised. "How did you know?" Noah smiled. "You look like someone who drinks coffee because it is practical, not because it is exciting." Liam laughed before he could stop himself. "That is probably the most accurate description anyone has ever given me." The tension eased just enough for a real conversation. They spoke about favorite dance styles, childhood competitions, sore muscles, difficult professors, and the strange habit dancers developed of counting music while walking through grocery stores. Liam admitted he had started ballroom only because his mother insisted that every athlete should learn balance. Noah admitted he had never imagined dance as a competition until college. For a few peaceful minutes, they sounded less like reluctant partners and more like ordinary students. Practice resumed that afternoon. Something small had changed. Their timing remained sharp, but now their movements breathed together more naturally. Liam no longer pulled away the instant every partnered sequence ended. Noah noticed without mentioning it. Coach Ramirez quietly observed from across the room before stopping the music once more. This time he smiled. "Better," he said. "Not because your feet improved. Your feet were never the problem." Liam wiped sweat from his forehead. "Then what changed?" Coach Ramirez pointed toward both of them. "You finally started listening to each other instead of only listening to the music." Liam looked at Noah, thoughtful this time instead of uncertain. Noah simply adjusted the cuff of his practice shirt and smiled with calm confidence. Neither of them realized that the strongest routines were never built from perfect choreography alone. They were built one honest moment at a time, long before anyone stepped onto the competition floor. The 4th day of practice arrived with the steady rhythm of rain tapping against the tall studio windows, turning the morning light into a soft silver glow that stretched across the polished floor. Noah tied his dance shoes with the familiar calm that always settled over him before rehearsal, while Liam adjusted the sleeves of his black practice shirt and quietly reviewed the counts under his breath. Neither of them noticed how naturally they had started arriving at the same time every morning. Coach Ramirez stood near the sound system, watching them with folded arms before pressing play. Gentle piano notes filled the room, followed by a sweeping orchestral melody that demanded precision, trust, and complete attention. "Today," the coach said, "I do not want you thinking about the steps. I want you listening to each other." Liam nodded confidently. "We know the choreography." Coach Ramirez smiled. "That is exactly why I am worried." The rehearsal began smoothly. Their opening sequence felt stronger than ever. Every turn landed cleanly. Every lift felt balanced. Noah could feel the subtle pressure of Liam's hand adjusting instinctively whenever they shifted weight. It was not something they had discussed. It simply happened. Their breathing slowly settled into the same rhythm until the music carried them toward the most difficult transition in the entire routine. Students from other teams gathered quietly along the mirrored wall, waiting for their own practice sessions while casually watching the university's strongest partnership. Tyler leaned against the doorway with crossed arms, curious whether the unusual pairing would finally come together. Noah stepped backward exactly on count 7 before extending his hand. Liam caught it perfectly. They rotated together, closing the distance required for the next movement. "Eyes," Coach Ramirez reminded them softly from across the room. "Trust your partner." Noah lifted his gaze without hesitation. Liam did the same. For one brief second, everything else disappeared. The mirrors faded. The music became strangely distant. Liam saw calm blue eyes looking directly into his without fear, without expectation, simply inviting him to stay present in the moment. Noah noticed something he had never seen before beneath Liam's confident expression. There was uncertainty. Honest, unexpected uncertainty. Count 1 arrived. Then count 2. Liam did not move. His mind, usually sharper than a metronome, went completely blank. The carefully memorized choreography vanished as though someone had erased every step from his memory. Noah waited, confused but steady. Liam blinked once, then twice. The silence inside his thoughts felt louder than the music itself. Coach Ramirez stopped the speaker immediately. The room became perfectly still. Nobody laughed. Nobody spoke. Tyler lowered his arms in disbelief. One teammate quietly whispered, "Did Liam just forget the routine?" Liam stepped back, rubbing a hand across the back of his neck as color rose into his face. I do not know what happened." He looked genuinely bewildered, almost frustrated with himself. Coach Ramirez studied him carefully before turning toward Noah. "Did you change anything?" Noah shook his head. "No. I followed the choreography exactly." Liam exhaled slowly, still searching his memory for the missing counts. "I knew every step before we started." Tyler finally broke the silence with a teasing grin. "The captain of the team forgot choreography? I should mark this day on my calendar." A few students laughed politely, but Liam did not. He stared at the floor, disappointed in himself. Noah walked over and offered him a bottle of water. "Everyone has an off moment," he said gently. Liam accepted it without meeting his eyes. "That has never happened to me before." Noah smiled reassuringly. Then maybe today was simply different. Coach Ramirez watched the exchange with quiet understanding. He said nothing for several seconds before restarting the music. "Take 5 minutes," he said calmly. "Sometimes the hardest part of dancing is not remembering the steps. Sometimes it is understanding why you forgot them in the first place." Liam looked toward Noah once more, and this time he found himself looking away first, unable to explain why the simplest moment of eye contact had unsettled him more than the most difficult routine he had ever performed. The strange pause during rehearsal spread across campus faster than Noah expected. By the following afternoon, whispers floated through the dance building almost as naturally as music. Nobody exaggerated the story too much because everyone had seen it happen with their own eyes. Liam Parker, the dancer who never missed a count, had frozen in the middle of the routine as if someone had quietly switched off the part of his mind that always knew what came next. Noah tried not to think about it while organizing the costume measurements Coach Ramirez had assigned to everyone. Rumors had never interested him. Unfortunately, rumors seemed very interested in him. As he walked toward the studio carrying a folder beneath one arm, 2 freshmen stopped talking the instant he passed. Another student smiled awkwardly before pretending to check messages on a phone that was clearly turned upside down. Noah sighed quietly. College campuses always found entertainment wherever they could. Inside Studio B, Liam was already stretching alone. The room felt unusually silent despite the familiar hum of the ventilation system above them. Noah placed his backpack against the mirrored wall before offering his usual smile. "Good morning." Liam answered politely without looking up. "Morning." The single word sounded friendly enough, yet something had changed. Their conversations, which had slowly become easier over the previous week, suddenly felt carefully measured again. Practice began, but the difference became obvious almost immediately. Liam executed every movement correctly while avoiding direct eye contact whenever the choreography allowed it. During partner turns, he focused on Noah's shoulder instead of his face. During lifts, he counted softly under his breath as though numbers alone could protect him from another unexpected mistake. Noah noticed every small adjustment, but chose not to mention any of them. Everyone dealt with embarrassment differently. Coach Ramirez watched the rehearsal in thoughtful silence until the music stopped. "Take 10 minutes, he announced. "Hydrate. Then we will run the second half." Most of the team drifted toward the hallway. Noah filled his water bottle at the cooler while Liam stepped outside with his phone. Through the glass entrance, Noah saw him standing alone beneath the shade of a large maple tree, staring at the screen without actually reading anything. It looked less like someone answering messages and more like someone trying to organize thoughts that refused to stay still. Tyler wandered over carrying 2 sports drinks. "He has been acting strange all morning," Tyler said quietly. Noah shrugged. "He is probably still frustrated." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "Liam does not get frustrated. He solves problems. That is why this is weird." Noah considered that for a moment before answering honestly. "Then maybe this is not a problem he knows how to solve yet." Tyler looked at him curiously but said nothing else. When rehearsal resumed, Coach Ramirez changed the exercise completely. Instead of practicing choreography, he asked every partnership to improvise simple movements while listening to slow instrumental music. "Forget perfection," he instructed. "Learn to respond instead of predict." Noah relaxed almost immediately. Liam looked as though he had been asked to solve calculus without a pencil. They began with cautious steps, leaving comfortable space between them. Noah followed the rhythm naturally while Liam hesitated, searching for certainty where none existed. Halfway through the exercise, Noah quietly extended one hand without saying a word. Liam paused for only a heartbeat before accepting it. Their movements remained simple, almost ordinary, yet the tension eased little by little. Neither of them tried to impress anyone. They simply listened. When the music faded, Coach Ramirez smiled with quiet satisfaction. "Better," he said. "You are finally dancing with another human being instead of with your own expectations." Liam glanced toward Noah, this time holding the eye contact for a second longer before offering the smallest smile of appreciation. It disappeared almost immediately, but Noah noticed it anyway. Outside the studio, the rumors continued to grow louder. Inside, however, something far more important had begun to grow in complete silence. The following week arrived with longer rehearsals and shorter conversations, but something subtle had changed between Noah and Liam. The uncomfortable silence that had settled after the forgotten choreography slowly gave way to quiet understanding. They no longer forced conversations, yet they also no longer avoided them. Coach Ramirez noticed the difference almost immediately. Instead of assigning another exhausting rehearsal, he announced that every partnership would spend the afternoon volunteering at the University Community Arts Festival, helping children prepare a short dance showcase before returning to practice that evening. "A good partner is not only built inside a studio," he explained. "Sometimes trust begins where nobody is keeping score." Liam looked uncertain. "You want us teaching instead of training?" Coach Ramirez nodded. "Exactly." Noah smiled as they walked across campus carrying portable speakers, folding chairs, and costume boxes toward the recreation lawn where colorful tents lined the sidewalks beneath bright autumn trees. Children laughed while parents carried cups of coffee and balloons drifted gently above the crowd. The cheerful atmosphere felt completely different from the pressure of competition. Noah immediately knelt beside a nervous little boy who refused to join the group because he thought he was a terrible dancer. "Can I tell you a secret?" Noah asked with a warm smile. The child nodded. "The best dancers I know have all made mistakes. The only difference is that they kept dancing afterward." The boy hesitated before slowly taking Noah's hand. Liam watched from a few feet away without saying anything. Throughout the afternoon, he noticed dozens of small moments that nobody else seemed to see. Noah remembered every child's name after hearing it only once. He patiently tied loose shoelaces, encouraged shy students without embarrassing them, and celebrated every tiny improvement as though it deserved a standing ovation. He never rushed anyone. He never acted impatiently. He simply made people feel comfortable enough to believe they could succeed. During a short break, Liam handed Noah a bottle of water. "You are good at this," he admitted. Noah looked genuinely surprised. "Teaching," Liam nodded. "People relax around you. That is not easy." Noah laughed softly. "My grandmother always said dancing is easier after someone remembers to smile." Liam smiled without thinking. "She sounds smart." She was. Noah's expression softened with quiet gratitude. She believed kindness should never be reserved for special occasions. Liam looked across the festival where the children were practicing together beneath strings of colorful lights. "My father thought winning solved everything," he said quietly. "Every tournament, every race, every report card. If I finished second, he always asked what happened instead of asking whether I enjoyed it." Noah turned toward him with calm understanding instead of sympathy. "That sounds exhausting." Liam released a slow breath. "I never noticed until recently." The words lingered comfortably between them as neither felt pressured to fill the silence. For the first time since becoming partners, Noah understood why Liam chased perfection so relentlessly. It was never about impressing strangers. It was about proving something to himself that could never quite be measured. When the children's performance finally began, Noah stood beside the stage, applauding every routine with genuine enthusiasm. Liam found himself watching Noah more often than the dancers. There was something quietly remarkable about someone who celebrated other people's success as naturally as breathing. Later that evening, they returned to the empty studio for one final rehearsal. The music started, and without discussing it, their movements flowed with surprising ease. Liam no longer counted every beat aloud. Noah no longer wondered whether his partner trusted him. They simply moved together, each responding instinctively to the other's timing, balance, and energy. Coach Ramirez observed the entire rehearsal without interrupting once. When the final note faded, he slowly clapped his hands together. "Now," he said with a satisfied smile, "I finally see two partners instead of two talented individuals sharing the same floor." Liam glanced toward Noah, and this time his smile remained just a little longer than before, while Noah quietly realized that the strongest connections were never built through flawless performances alone. They were built through ordinary moments when someone chose to truly see another person. 3 days before the regional qualifying performance, the university theater felt strangely different. The seats were empty, the stage lights glowed softly against the polished floor, and the enormous room echoed with nothing except the distant hum of the ventilation system. Noah stepped onto the stage carrying 2 bottles of water while Liam stood near the center mark, quietly studying the empty audience as if thousands of invisible judges were already watching. "It feels bigger without people," Liam admitted. Noah looked around the silent theater before smiling. "Maybe it only feels bigger because this is where all our work finally becomes real." Coach Ramirez walked onto the stage with a clipboard tucked beneath one arm. "Today is not about perfection," he said. "Treat this like the performance that happens 5 minutes before the real performance. Learn where your nerves appear, because they always appear somewhere." Liam nodded confidently, but Noah noticed the familiar habit returning. Liam was rolling his shoulders repeatedly, counting under his breath, trying to control every detail before the music even started. Noah stepped beside him. "You are doing it again." Liam looked over. "Doing what?" "Trying to win before the music begins." Liam laughed quietly. "I did not realize it was that obvious." Noah shrugged with an easy smile. "Only because I know you better now." Those simple words lingered between them longer than either expected. Coach Ramirez pressed play, and the opening piano melody floated gently through the theater. This time, everything felt different. Liam no longer chased each count as though it might disappear. Instead, he listened for Noah's breathing, matching every movement naturally. Their opening sequence unfolded with remarkable precision, but what impressed Coach Ramirez most was something impossible to score on a judging sheet. They trusted each other completely. During the first lift, Liam adjusted instinctively before Noah even shifted his balance. During every turn, Noah responded without hesitation, never forcing the timing because he already knew Liam would be exactly where he needed to be. Even the pauses between movements felt alive instead of empty. The choreography no longer looked rehearsed. It looked honest. Coach Ramirez quietly lowered his clipboard. Several faculty members who had entered to prepare lighting equipment stopped working for a moment just to watch. When the music reached the same transition where Liam had forgotten the choreography days earlier, Noah naturally raised his eyes again. Liam met his gaze without fear. For a brief second, the entire theater disappeared just as it had before, but this time nothing vanished from his memory. Instead, everything became clearer. Every count returned effortlessly. Every movement flowed without conscious thought. Liam smiled in the middle of the routine, something he had never done during rehearsal. Noah smiled back, and together they completed the entire sequence without missing a single beat. When the final note faded, silence filled the theater before Coach Ramirez slowly applauded. "That," he said warmly, "is the first time I have seen your performance instead of your practice." Liam bent forward, catching his breath before laughing softly. "I was waiting for the part where I forgot everything again." Noah chuckled. "You remembered something more important instead." Liam looked at him curiously. "What was that?" Noah picked up his water bottle and answered with complete sincerity. "You stopped trying to dance perfectly. You finally trusted that I would be there." Liam remained quiet for several seconds as those words settled comfortably in his mind. On the drive home that evening, he replayed the rehearsal over and over, not because of the flawless routine, but because he had felt calmer looking into Noah's eyes than he had ever felt staring at a mirror. For the first time in his life, Liam began wondering whether the strongest partnership he had ever built was changing into something he could not yet explain, and surprisingly, the thought no longer frightened him. The morning before the regional qualifying event arrived with clear blue skies and an unusual sense of quiet that seemed to settle over the entire campus. Students hurried between classes carrying coffee cups and backpacks, but inside the dance building everything felt slower, almost respectful, as though everyone understood how much the next 24 hours meant. Noah arrived carrying his notebook, expecting another full rehearsal, only to find the main studio empty except for Liam sitting cross-legged against the mirrored wall. His dance shoes rested beside him, untouched. That alone was enough to make Noah pause. Liam was never the last person to begin warming up. "Everything all right?" Noah asked gently as he walked over. Liam looked up with a thoughtful smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "I think so. I just needed a few quiet minutes before everyone else arrived." Noah sat beside him without speaking. The silence between them no longer felt awkward. It felt familiar, like a favorite song that did not need words to be understood. After a long moment, Liam released a slow breath. "Can I ask you something?" Noah nodded. "Anything." Liam stared at the polished floor before continuing. "Have you ever believed something about yourself for so long that you never stopped to ask whether it was actually true?" Noah considered the question carefully. "More than once." Liam gave a small, uncertain laugh. "That does not make this conversation any easier." Noah remained patient. He had learned that some moments should never be rushed. Liam rested his forearms across his knees and quietly admitted, "I have always thought my entire life was already mapped out. Train hard, win competitions, graduate, find a career. Everything neat, everything predictable." He paused before looking toward Noah. "Then we became partners." Noah smiled softly. "That was Coach Ramirez's decision." "At first, yes," Liam replied. "What happened after that was not." His voice remained calm, but there was an honesty Noah had never heard before. "When I forgot the choreography, I kept telling myself it happened because of pressure. Then I blamed exhaustion. Then stress. None of those explanations made sense." He shook his head with a quiet laugh. "The truth is simpler, and somehow it scares me more." Noah listened without interrupting. Liam finally met his eyes. "Every time I look at you now, I stop thinking about winning. I stop thinking about expectations. I stop thinking about who everyone expects me to be." He smiled awkwardly. "I do not even know what that means." Noah looked at him with the same calm expression that had steadied him from the beginning. "It means you do not have to figure everything out today." Liam searched Noah's face, almost expecting a different answer. "You are not surprised?" Noah smiled gently. "People change. Sometimes they simply notice something that was already quietly growing." Liam laughed under his breath. You always make complicated things sound simple. Because sometimes they are. Noah rested his hands loosely on the floor beside him. You do not owe anyone immediate answers. Not me. Not Coach Ramirez. Not your teammates. Not yourself. Liam felt the tightness in his chest ease for the first time in days. I was afraid you would expect me to explain everything. Noah shook his head. I would rather you be honest than certain. Those words settled between them with surprising warmth. Before either could continue, Coach Ramirez entered the studio carrying his usual clipboard. He looked from one dancer to the other before smiling knowingly. Good, he said. You are all ready. Here. Liam stood, slipping on his dance shoes with renewed confidence. Noah rose beside him. The rehearsal that followed felt lighter than any before it. Their movements remained disciplined, but every step carried a quiet confidence born from trust rather than obligation. Coach Ramirez watched without interruption until the final note faded. Tomorrow, he said, judges will score your technique. The audience will remember your connection. Never confuse the two. As Noah and Liam gathered their bags, neither spoke about the conversation they had shared that morning. They did not need to. Some truths became stronger the moment they were spoken aloud, while others quietly proved themselves one ordinary day at a time. The regional qualifying competition began beneath brilliant white stage lights that transformed the theater into a world of polished wood, quiet anticipation, and endless possibility. Backstage, dancers from universities across the state adjusted costumes, whispered final reminders, and stretched carefully while volunteers hurried between dressing rooms carrying clipboards and bottled water. The atmosphere buzzed with nervous excitement, yet Noah felt unexpectedly calm. He stood near the curtain fastening the cuffs of his navy performance shirt while quietly listening to the distant applause welcoming the first competitors. Liam approached carrying both of their garment bags before handing Noah a small folded note. Coach Ramirez left this in the rehearsal room, he explained. Noah unfolded the paper and smiled as he read the short message written in familiar handwriting. Trust each other more than you trust the judges. He laughed softly before showing it to Liam. Liam smiled, folding the note again with surprising care before placing it safely inside his jacket pocket. That sounds exactly like him. One pair after another completed their routines while Noah and Liam waited patiently in the wings. They watched incredible performances filled with athletic lifts, flawless timing, and dramatic choreography. Liam quietly admitted, "A week ago, I would have been comparing every routine to ours." Noah glanced toward him. "And today?" Liam answered, without hesitation. "Today I only want to dance the story we practiced." Noah nodded with quiet satisfaction. That answer alone told him how much had changed. A stage manager approached holding a headset and smiled warmly. "University number 7, you are next." Liam inhaled slowly before extending his hand. Noah accepted it naturally, their familiar pre-performance ritual now feeling less like habit and more like reassurance. "Ready?" Liam asked. Noah smiled. "I have been ready since the moment you stopped worrying about being perfect." Liam laughed, and together they stepped into the light. The opening piano melody drifted across the theater as the audience settled into complete silence. Noah could not see individual faces beyond the bright stage lights, but he could sense hundreds of people watching every movement. The first sequence unfolded with effortless precision. Their feet remained perfectly synchronized, but what truly changed was everything between the counts. Every transition felt unhurried. Every turn carried quiet confidence. Every pause allowed the audience to breathe with them instead of simply watching them. Midway through the performance came the transition that had once stopped Liam completely. Noah raised his eyes exactly as rehearsed. Liam met his gaze without uncertainty. This time there was no forgotten choreography, no hesitation, and no fear. Instead, there was complete trust. Liam realized that the stage no longer felt enormous because he was no longer facing it alone. Noah's calm expression steadied him more effectively than months of disciplined practice ever had. They moved through the remaining choreography with natural elegance, responding instinctively to each subtle shift of balance and rhythm. Even the audience seemed to lean forward together, drawn not only by technical skill, but by the unmistakable sincerity carried in every movement. When the final note faded, the theater remained silent for one brief heartbeat before applause filled the room. Some audience members stood immediately, while others simply smiled, moved by something they could not quite explain. Noah and Liam bowed together before walking backstage where Coach Ramirez greeted them with quiet pride instead of loud celebration. "I told you judges would score technique," he said. Tonight they also witnessed honesty. Liam looked toward Noah and smiled with genuine gratitude. "I finally understand what you both were trying to teach me." Noah adjusted his jacket and laughed softly. Sometimes the hardest step is simply trusting the person beside you. As they waited for the official scores to be announced, neither of them talked about trophies or rankings. For the first time since the partnership had begun, the result mattered less than the journey that had quietly transformed two talented dancers into two people who had learned how to truly see one another, both on the stage and beyond it. The announcement echoed through the theater as dancers, coaches, and families gathered beneath the bright stage lights once more. Noah stood beside Liam with his hands folded calmly in front of him, while the judges thanked every university for an unforgettable afternoon of performances. The applause rose and fell like gentle waves until the chief judge stepped toward the microphone, holding the final results. "This year's highest-scoring partnership," she announced with a warm smile, "demonstrated not only exceptional technique, but remarkable trust and emotional authenticity." Liam instinctively glanced toward Noah before either of them heard the next words. "First place goes to University 7. Noah Bennett and Liam Parker." For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then Coach Ramirez laughed proudly from the front row and motioned them toward the stage. The audience erupted into applause as the two dancers accepted their medals side by side. Cameras flashed across the theater, but Liam barely noticed them. He had spent years imagining how victory would feel. He expected excitement, relief, perhaps even pride. Instead, what surprised him most was gratitude. As the ceremony ended, teammates surrounded them with congratulations, playful jokes, and celebratory hugs. Tyler shook his head with an amused smile. "I guess Coach Ramirez knew exactly what he was doing." Liam laughed. "For once, I am willing to admit he was right." Coach Ramirez approached carrying the folded note Noah had read before the performance. "Keep this," he said, placing it into Liam's hand. "You earned more than a medal today." The team eventually boarded the university bus for the drive home, but Liam quietly asked Noah if they could walk back to campus from the downtown theater instead. It was only a little over a mile, and the cool evening air felt refreshing after the excitement of the competition. They walked beneath rows of glowing streetlights while autumn leaves drifted lazily across the sidewalk. Neither felt any need to hurry. The silence between them carried none of the uncertainty it once had. It carried comfort. When they reached the university dance building, Liam stopped outside the familiar studio where everything had begun weeks earlier. The room was empty now, illuminated only by soft hallway lights spilling through the glass door. He unlocked it with the spare key Coach Ramirez had trusted him with and stepped inside. Noah followed quietly. The polished floor reflected the moonlight pouring through the tall windows, making the room feel peaceful instead of lonely. Liam stood at the exact center where he had once forgotten every step of the routine. He smiled to himself before turning toward Noah. "I used to think looking at someone during a dance was just another technique," he admitted. "Now I understand it was always about trust." Noah listened without interrupting. Liam continued with calm honesty. "I still do not have every answer about myself. Maybe I will not for a while. But I know one thing with complete certainty." He took a slow breath. "Meeting you changed my life in the best possible way." Noah's expression softened into the same reassuring smile that had steadied Liam from their very first rehearsal. "You never needed all the answers," he replied gently. "You only needed the courage to ask the questions." Liam laughed quietly. "You always know exactly what to say." Noah shook his head. "Not always. Sometimes I just say what I believe." Liam reached out naturally, and Noah accepted his hand with the same quiet confidence they had built through countless hours of practice. There was nothing dramatic about the moment. No audience, no judges, no music. Only two young men standing inside an empty dance studio that no longer felt like the place where strangers had been paired together. It had become the place where honesty had replaced expectation, where trust had grown stronger than fear, and where a partnership built for one competition had quietly become the beginning of something neither of them wanted to leave behind. Liam smiled warmly. Would you dance with me one more time? Noah answered without hesitation. Always. Without applause or choreography to impress anyone, they stepped forward together, letting simple movements carry them across the silent floor. For the first time, neither of them danced to win. They danced because they had finally discovered that the most meaningful journey was never about perfect steps. It was about finding the one person who made every step feel like home.